All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to be doing a deep dive today, and today it's going to be on Getting Things Done by David Allen.
Ah, yes.
Have you heard of this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who hasn't these days?
Right. Well, we're going to be going through it, seeing what we can learn, and maybe give you some ideas on how to get things done.
Sounds good.
So Getting Things Done by David Allen. It's a system for stress-free productivity. So that's kind of the promise here.
Right. Yeah, and it's not just some random guy on the internet, you know? David Allen has an interesting background. He's worked with some pretty high-profile organizations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the World Bank, the U.S. Navy.
Oh, wow. So it's like tried and true, sort of?
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a system that's been tested in some really high-pressure environments.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So, maybe there's something there for the rest of us.
Yeah, maybe we can get a little bit of that. I know I can certainly use it in my life.
Yeah.
So the basic idea here is it's not just about making a to-do list. It's about getting everything out of your head so you can focus.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever felt like you're just like juggling a million things in your head?
Oh, absolutely.
And you just feel like you can't focus?
All the time.
So this system is supposed to kind of like download all of that into a system, and then you can relax.
Right. Yeah. The idea is to create this trusted system outside of your mind that you can rely on so you don't have to hold all that stuff in your head.
Okay.
It's about freeing up your mental RAM, so to speak.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So how does this, how does GTD address like the realities of the modern workplace?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you talked about juggling a million things.
All right.
I mean, we live in this age of information overload, right?
It's true.
We're constantly bombarded with emails and messages and notifications, and it's like our roles are constantly shifting.
Mm-hmm.
Project boundaries are blurred. It's just chaos. So GTD provides a framework for capturing, processing, and organizing all of that input.
So it's not just about like being more productive. It's about like actually like managing the chaos.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about regaining a sense of control in a world that feels increasingly out of control.
Okay, I'm liking this already.
Right.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this capturing and processing. What does that actually look like?
Sure. So imagine your mind is like an inbox, right? And it's constantly being flooded with emails and messages and random thoughts.
Okay, yeah, I can picture that.
So capturing is about getting all of that stuff out of your head and into a trusted system.
Okay, so like writing it down or something.
Exactly. It could be a notebook, an app, a voice recorder, anything that works for you.
So you're not trying to like remember everything.
Right. The goal is to offload all of that mental clutter so your mind is free to focus on other things.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But what happens once you've captured all of these things? Like, doesn't that just create a massive, overwhelming list?
Well, that's where the clarifying stage comes in. So once you've captured everything, you need to go through each item and ask yourself a few questions.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, what is this actually? Is it a task, an idea, a project?
Okay.
Then what does it mean to me? Like, what's the desired outcome here? And finally, what's the very next action I need to take to move this forward?
Okay, so you're not just dumping everything into a list. You're actually thinking about each item and deciding what to do with it.
Right, exactly.
I see. Okay, and this next action part, that seems really important. Like, how do you figure out what that next action is?
Well, it's about breaking things down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay.
So instead of having a vague to-do like plan vacation,
Right.
your next action might be research flights to Hawaii or call the hotel to check availability.
Okay, yeah, that makes it seem much less overwhelming.
Right. The idea is to make it so clear and actionable that you can't help but get started.
I like that. So it's like you're removing all the barriers to actually getting things done.
Exactly. It's about making it as easy as possible to take action.
Okay, I'm following you. So we've got
Yeah.
capturing and clarifying what's next.
Well, the next stage is organizing, which is all about putting things where they belong so you can easily access them when you need them.
Okay, so like filing things away.
In a sense, yeah, but it's more than just filing. It's about creating a system that works for you.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, you might create lists for different contexts, like work-home errands,
Okay.
or you might use a calendar for time-specific tasks, or you might have a project support file for each of your larger projects.
Hold on, context. What are contexts?
Oh, yeah, so contexts are basically categories that help you group your actions in a way that makes sense for your workflow.
Okay, so like if I'm at the grocery store, I don't want to be looking at my work to-do list.
Right, exactly. You want to have a list specifically for errands.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like having different mental compartments for different areas of your life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so we've got capturing, clarifying, organizing, what happens next?
Well, after that comes reflecting, which is all about regularly reviewing your lists and systems.
Okay, so like checking in and making sure everything is up to date.
Exactly. It's about staying on top of things and making adjustments as needed.
Okay, so it's not like a one-time thing. You have to kind of keep it going.
Right. It's an ongoing process.
Okay, and then what's the last stage?
The last stage, and arguably the most rewarding one, is engaging, which is where you actually start doing the work, tackling those next actions you've so carefully defined.
Ah, so this is where the rubber meets the road.
Right. And here's a little tip that can make a big difference. It's called the 2-minute rule.
Okay, tell me more about this.
So if a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, just do it right away.
Oh, I like that. So it's like just get it out of the way.
Exactly. It's amazing how much you can accomplish just by knocking out those tiny tasks quickly.
Yeah, it's like those little wins that keep you motivated.
Right, and it clears your mental runway for the more demanding tasks.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Mm.
So, okay, we've covered the 5 stages:
Right.
capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage.
Mm-hmm.
They seem pretty straightforward, but I have to admit, the idea of capturing everything still feels a bit overwhelming. Like, how do you know what's truly important and what can be safely ignored?
That's a great question, and it brings us to the core of what makes GTD so effective. It's not just about doing more. It's about making conscious decisions about what deserves your attention and what doesn't.
Okay, so it's about taking control of your workflow rather than letting it control you.
Exactly.
This is getting really interesting.
Right.
So we've gotten a taste of the 5 stages of GTD, but let's zoom out for a second and talk about the bigger picture. What are the key principles that drive this whole system?
Well, you could say that the 5 stages are like the tools in a toolbox, and Alan's 2 key objectives are the blueprints that guide how you use those tools.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are these blueprints? What are Alan's 2 key objectives in GTD?
All right, so the first objective is to capture everything that has your attention. Everything, whether it's a task, an idea, a commitment, or even just a nagging thought, you know, that thing that keeps popping into your head when you're trying to fall asleep.
Oh yeah, I know those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the goal is to get it all out of your head and into that trusted system we talked about.
Okay, so it's like creating an external brain where you can store all those things that would otherwise be cluttering up your mental space.
Precisely. It's about freeing up your mental RAM so you can focus on what's important in the present moment.
That sounds incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
But doesn't it get overwhelming having to keep track of all that stuff outside of your head?
That's where the second objective comes in, making front-end decisions about all those inputs.
Front-end decisions.
Yeah. That means deciding what each item means to you, what the desired outcome is, and what the very next action step should be.
So you're not just mindlessly dumping everything into a list. You're actively engaging with each item and making conscious choices about what to do with it.
Exactly.
I see. But what about those things that just feel too big or overwhelming to tackle? How does GTD help with that?
That's where the clarify stage we discussed earlier becomes really powerful.
Okay.
By breaking down those larger tasks or projects into smaller, more manageable next actions, you eliminate that feeling of paralysis and make it easier to get started.
Okay. That makes sense. But let's be realistic, not everything can be broken down into a 2-minute task. How does GTD address those larger projects that require more time and effort?
Well, GTD encourages you to think about projects as a series of interconnected actions. So you start by defining the desired outcome of the project,
Okay.
and then break it down into smaller, actionable steps.
Okay, so like baby steps.
Yeah, exactly this way.
Yeah.
Even a complex project becomes a series of manageable tasks.
So it's like creating a roadmap for achieving your goals one step at a time.
Precisely. And by having that roadmap, you can avoid feeling overwhelmed and stay focused on the next action.
This is starting to sound less like a productivity system and more like a philosophy for living a more intentional life.
You're absolutely right. GTD is not just about getting things done, it's about getting the right things done. And doing them in a way that minimizes stress and maximizes your energy and focus.
I can already see how this could be life-changing, but I have to ask, how do you know if GTD is really right for you? I mean, there's so many productivity systems out there. What makes this one stand out?
Well, one way to gauge its effectiveness is to look at the impact it's had on others.
Oh,
Getting things done has been praised by major publications like Fast Company, The Wall Street Journal, and Fortune.
wow.
Time magazine even called it the definitive business self-help book of the decade.
Oh, wow. Those are some serious endorsements.
Yeah, they are.
But what exactly are they praising? Is it just about getting more done, or is there something deeper at play here?
Well, I think they're recognizing GTD's potential to reduce stress, improve focus, and help people feel more in control of their lives, both professionally and personally.
Okay.
It's about clearing the mental clutter and creating space for the things that truly matter.
That's a powerful message, but I'm curious, what about those who've tried GTD and haven't had success with it? Are there any common pitfalls people should be aware of?
Certainly, one common challenge is the temptation to over-organize.
Okay.
Spending more time creating elaborate systems than actually doing the work.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen.
Another pitfall is the struggle with consistent capture. It's easy to let things slip through the cracks if you're not diligent about getting everything out of your head and into your trusted system.
That makes sense. It sounds like GTD requires a certain level of discipline and commitment to really make it work.
It does, but for those who are willing to put in the effort, it seems like the rewards could be significant.
Absolutely. So if someone's listening to this and thinking, okay, I'm intrigued, but where do I start? What would you recommend as a first step?
Well, I think the best place to start would be with Alan's book, Getting Things Done.
Okay.
It's a comprehensive guide to the entire system, and it's packed with practical tips and examples.
All right, so dive right in.
Yeah, but you don't have to implement everything at once,
Right.
Start by experimenting with one principle, like the 2-minute rule,
Okay.
or setting aside some dedicated time for capturing all your to-dos.
Yeah, little by little.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you and gradually incorporating GTD principles into your daily routine.
Okay, so don't feel like you have to overhaul your entire life overnight.
No, not at all.
Okay, good to know.
And remember, GTD is not about achieving some mythical state of perfect organization.
Yeah.
It's about finding a system that helps you clear that mental clutter and allows you to focus on what truly matters.
So it's more about creating a sense of clarity and control than about having a perfectly organized inbox.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about freeing up your mental energy so you can be more present, more productive, and ultimately more fulfilled in all areas of your life.
That's a great takeaway. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, scattered, or just plain stressed out, GTD might be just the thing you need to reclaim your time, your energy, and your sanity.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover a newfound sense of calm and control in the process.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into David Allen's Getting Things Done. We hope you've gained some valuable insights into this powerful system for stress-free productivity.
Yeah, it's not about achieving some unattainable level of perfection.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and using these principles to create a more fulfilling and less stressful life.
Until next time, keep those inboxes empty and those minds clear.
I think one of the most valuable things about GTD is it helps you to see that, you're not alone in the struggle with feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think everyone feels that way these days.
Right, exactly. And GTD provides a framework for, actually taking back control.
Okay.
And it's not just about work, these principles can apply to your personal life as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about all the things we have to juggle outside of work, family commitments, social events, errands, all of it.
Yeah, it's true.
So GTD can help you to manage all of those things in a way that, reduces stress and creates more space for you to enjoy life.
Okay, so it's like a holistic approach to productivity.
Exactly. It's about getting everything out of your head and into a system you trust so you can be fully present in each moment.
That sounds pretty amazing, honestly.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like a lot of work.
Well, yeah, I mean, it takes some effort up front to set up your system and get into the habit of using it, but once you do, it really does become second nature.
Okay, so what would you say to someone who's listening to this and thinking, okay, this sounds great, but I don't even know where to begin?
Well, I would say start small.
Okay.
Pick one principle that resonates with you and try it out for a week or two, see how it feels.
Okay, so like the 2-minute rule.
Yeah, that's a great one to start with. Or maybe just try setting aside 10 minutes each evening to capture all your to-dos.
Okay, yeah, that seems manageable.
Right, and remember, GTD is not a one-size-fits-all solution, so you might need to experiment a bit to find what works best for you.
So it's more about finding the right tools for your toolbox.
Precisely.
Okay, so it sounds like GTD is not a magic bullet, but it's a powerful system that can help you to achieve a level of clarity and control that you might not have thought possible.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is to approach it with a spirit of curiosity and experimentation. Be willing to try new things and adjust your approach as needed.
That's great advice. So for those of you who are ready to take the plunge into the world of getting things done, we've included a link to David Allen's book in the show notes.
Yeah, and there are also tons of resources available online if you want to learn more.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into Getting Things Done by David Allen.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us today, and thanks to all of you for listening.
Until next time, keep getting things done.
And remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress.